Hello and welcome back to my channel, Cards by Melissa Minor. Today I'm going to be showing you the Stamps of Life February Stamp and Die Hard Club set, and this is called Flower Wreath. And as you can see, it's this gorgeous wreath, and there's a couple sentiments: with love, sending hugs, and just because. These are the dies that come with it. You can cut the wreath out solid. You can cut out the center. You can cut out some of the flowers. So there's lots of options that you can do with this wreath. Also included, there is this little card that gives you some inspiration with some ideas, and then there's more here on the back. Now, if you're interested in finding out more about the Stamp and Die Hard Club, I will have my affiliate link listed down below in the description box. If you choose to join, you will receive 500 bonus club points. You can join using Club Melissa M. As always, if you use my link, I do appreciate that, as that does support me and my YouTube channel. If you are a member of the Stamps of Life Club membership, you will receive 15% off all of your orders placed on the Stamps of Life website. Okay, let's jump in and make some cards. I'm going to show you what I do when I receive my club shipment and how I store my stamps and dies. So the first thing I do is I grab a pair of scissors and I trim just a little bit off the bottom so that everything will fit nicely in my stamp and storage pockets. Now, I will have these storage pockets linked down below, as well as the magnetic sheets that I also use. I don't usually put this into my video, but I get a lot of questions on this, so I thought you might be interested in seeing my process on this. Now, I was showing you there that these magnets are very sturdy and that when turned upside down, none of the dies fall off. So I'm going ahead and taking all of the dies off of the card here. Whew, these are really stuck down. And I'm going to be placing these on the magnetic sheet. And then once I get everything on the magnetic sheet, I throw the sheet, the cardstock away that the dies were on. Sometimes I keep it, sometimes I throw it away. Most of the time I throw that away because I don't really need that one. So I was thinking about keeping it, but I'm like, nah, I don't really need that. So I'm throwing that away. I flip this over. It's already in my little storage pocket here. So I've got the stamp on the front, the dies on the magnetic sheet on the back, and then I slip the inspiration card in the back. So there you go. That's how I store these. Love it. All right, you can see here that I do have the wreath mounted here in my mini Misty, and I'm going to be using some VersaFine Onyx black ink because I'm going to be doing some heat embossing. So I want to get this inked up, and I'm going to be applying some pressure here. I am going to ink this up a couple times because I really want that rich in color. So let me ink this up again and close my Misty door just to give that a good impression. There we go. And so now we have this piece ready to go. And now I'm going to be doing some embossing. So I'm going to take out my clear embossing powder, and I'm going to pour some clear embossing powder over my stamped image here. And I'm going to get this, make sure I get powder all over my image, and then I'm just going to tap off the excess here into my tray. And then I'm going to take this over to my heat tool, and I'm going to heat set this off camera. Okay. All right, now that I have that heat set, I'm going to do some watercoloring. So have you seen these? These are Tim Holtz's new Distress Watercolor pencils, and this is set 4. Now, you might have recognized some of these color names: Saltwater Taffy, Festive Berries, Carved Pumpkin, Scattered Straw, Shabby Shutters, Mowed Lawn, Evergreen Bow, Chipped Sapphire, Victorian Velvet, Wilted Violet, Tea Dye, and Ground Espresso. I'm also bringing in these water brush pens from Pink and Maine, and I am going to use these to color in my image. So the first thing that you do, these are a little different than your normal colored pencils. So with these watercolor distress pencils, what you've seen me do here is dip the end of the pencil into a little dish of water. And then I've taken the water brush, or you could use a paintbrush here. I don't really have water squeezed into the end of this, just a little bit to have it wet. But you see me just dab a little bit of the water brush onto the edge of the pencil and then onto a surface here. Now, it's a shiny surface off to my right. I actually have a piece of plastic there, some packaging, and I'll dip it into the color. And then that first flower there that I have is really dark. And so I realized that I don't need that amount of pigment. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it into the color there, and then I'm going to blot it off a little bit onto the paper towel onto the side. So I'm using here the red pencil, which is the Festive Berries. And here, let me zoom it in so you can see a little more. So now I have the Wilted Violet, and I've sped this up, but you can see that I'm taking the brush there and just getting a little bit of that pigment off onto the side after I've dabbed it into the water. And then it's like a paint, but it's in a pencil. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just such a different painting medium than anything I've ever used before. And I really like it. It's so easy and fun to work with. And there's multiple different sets of these. And I will have these linked down below in the description box. You can get all of the sets. I have the set 4 here that I'm using. But you could get multiple sets and, you know, go back in and use your darker colors to really give it a... darken the images up. Now I do go back in and darken the centers up a little bit with some of the ink that I have down there. Okay, so I'm doing the same thing with the carved pumpkin. And I won't do all of the coloring on camera. I just wanted you to see a little bit of this because it's just so different. If you've never done this, it can be different. And so I wanted you to see the process. But it is very easy to do. And I just love the way it turns out. You can see with using the embossed image. Oh, I did want to mention, I am using the Tim Holtz watercolor paper. So this was stamped and embossed on watercolor paper. So you see how that turned out? Isn't that pretty? So now I am going to get ready to die cut that out, but that just looks gorgeous, I think. Now, one of the flowers, I did go out of the lines just a little bit, but that's okay. I can make that work, and I can cover that up. Okay, so there is a trick to using the dies. I do want to mention that. So when you use these dies, you really want to pick out a flower that's on the die, match it up with your image. You want to put your finger on it and then put your die right where that is and line that up. Okay, so that I made it look easy here for this outline die, but you're going to see in just a moment that I do struggle on the inner die. I recommend after multiple times of die cutting these, you see that bottom flower, how there's only one of those that looks kind of like a star. I have found that if you really try to line up that die, that's the easiest to line up. So here I'm trying to line it up, and I thought I picked out a flower and I'm lining it up, but it really wasn't the right flower. So I'm spinning it and it's not really lining up. So I'm taking it back to the die, or taking it back to the magnetic sheet, and I'm going to line it up again on my magnetic sheet. And I'm going to pick out that flower again, and I'm going to start the process over. So I'm going to just twist, twist, twist until I get it all lined up again.
And then I'm going to find that flower that I have in my mind. And at this point when I was recording, I didn't pick out that star flower. The more that I use the die, I have found that that star flower is really the way to go. So I recommend matching up that very bottom star flower because there's only one like that. And so that makes it a lot easier, the one that I have colored there in green. Okay, so I did find a flower and I matched it up, and look at there. So when I placed it onto my stamped image, ta-da, like it goes on there perfectly. So it really does matter looking at the flowers and then lining them up. So it's easy to do once you pick out that flower. So I'm going to get some tape on here, and then I'm going to take this over to my die cut machine, and I'm going to get these cut out so we can make some cards.
All right, I am bringing in a sketch here. This is the February sheet load sketch from Call Me Crafty Al, and this was my inspiration. And I don't know if you've ever seen these. I like using these. She gives all of the dimensions and cutting directions to make a sheet load of cards. So it was my inspiration, but I am gonna use some different cutting dimensions. So the first thing I'm doing here is bringing in all of my pieces, and I decided to bring in this die, the patchwork background. And so I have cut that out using some marigold cardstock and then also some grape cardstock. And then I have some pixie cardstock in the back and some strawberry cardstock in the background piece. So those background pieces measure 4 by 5 1/4. And then the thicker strip there, that measures 1 1/2 by 5 1/4. And then that thinner strip there that has some twine tied around it, that is 3/4 by 4. And so like I said, these are not the dimensions that Crafty Al uses. I did change mine up. Now, the paper, the pattern paper, the polka dots, I got them from this paper pad. This is called Cut Them Up, and I liked the polka dot paper that was in this paper pad. So I am going to be using that. I have some card bases also here off to the side in some powdered sugar. So I know which direction I'm going to go by using the sketch, and I'm going to be cutting my wreath down in half. But the first thing I want to do here is get everything adhered down to my card. So I'm going to adhere down the base here to my card base, and my card is an A2 standard size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/4, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm adding this thicker strip, this 1 1/2 by 5 1/4 piece, and I'm just going to line this up in the center. And then here is where I'm going to put that little piece on there, and I decide to bring in my scissors, and it's kind of scary here because I've done all this nice painting, but I'm going to cut my wreath in half, and that way I can get 2 cards out of my wreath. And so I'm going to position this onto my card base, and then I'm bringing in a sentiment here that I've cut out, and I just have used some random sentiments here that I've pulled from my Stamps of Life stash. And so I'm going to get this half wreath glued down onto my card, and then I'm going to put a little bit of glue onto this other strip here. And I did go ahead and use some tape here on the back to adhere that twine securely. And I've got that glued down. And then I'm going to bring in some foam tape here to add a little dimension to my card. And I'm going to pop up the sentiment. And now I have the word thanks popped up here. So I really like the way that this looks. There we go. So there's card number 1. So I'm going to be doing a similar card here, but I have some different colors. So off camera, I have chosen to use my Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers, and I've colored another wreath up using the red, a yellow, and an orange marker, so some different colors. And I am going to be making another wreath card, but this same pattern. So I'm going to cut this wreath apart as well so that I can get 2 in each of these color combinations. So I'm going to add some glue to the back of this half wreath. Okay, so I have that down. And now I'm going to add some glue here. So I've got that. Give that a little press. And on this one, I've put the ribbon on the side. And I've cut out the sentiment hello. So I'm going to add a little foam tape and I'm going to put the word hello on the back. And I like the way that looks. So that's card number 2. So now I'm going to be going and getting the other one for this marigold and strawberry combination. I just love the way these colors pop out. It's just so fun and vibrant. So same thing here, just gluing these down. And when you're following a pattern, it just makes it so easy. I don't quite get it straight, so I'm going to take it off and try this one more time. Add glue on my card base. And I've got that on there. And you'll see off to the side there, I have the word celebrate cut out. So I'm going to use a different sentiment on this card. So I've got that glued down. And now for this one, I do not have the twine on the bottom. So I'm going to add the word celebrate, add some foam tape, and I'm going to pop that up. So we've got that on there. So there is card number 3. And then for card number 4, now with this one, for the background piece, using that patchwork background, I've cut this one out using the cloud cardstock. And I was going for a more muted color. And so I still am using that same pattern paper with the pixie. And so I'm going to get my wreath glued down. Now you can see here on the centers of these flowers, I did go in off camera and added a little bit of pops of color to the centers just to give it a little extra interest. So I'm going to get these glued down. And then I'm going to add my sentiment here. I'm not sure how I want to arrange this one. I'm also bringing in this new bows and leaves die. So I have cut this pixie bow using the new bows and leaves die. And so I'm going to add a little foam on the back of that. And then with this one, this is a longer sentiment. So I think I'm going to add this to the center at the bottom. And so I like the way that looks, and I've got the bow off to the side. So there's cards, there's the purple, and then there's the marigold and strawberry. Now as I'm looking at these, I'm looking at that celebrate card, and I think it needs something. It doesn't have the twine on there, and so I do think it needs a bow. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a bow out of the marigold cardstock and get that adhered down with a little bit of foam. And I think that's exactly what that card was missing. So if you would, please take a moment. If you've enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. And thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.